How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Today, we've got Hussein Gernari here, who is actually part of that group that raised $10 million in 18 minutes, which is totally insane. We'll talk about that in just a second. He also raised $5 million personally last year, and he's just doing this stepping stone thing where every single raise gets more interesting. And we were talking offline, deal flow's changing. It's about to be on, but you got to have the tips. We're going to break down how he did it in just a little bit and give a little bit of insight in terms of this secret weapon I have that is going to help your capital raise. Hussein, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andre. It's awesome.
Tell me a little bit more about your background before getting into this capital raising side of things. Is this your full-time thing? What's your background? Let's talk about it.
So my background was in medical device development. So I've been an R&D engineer for a decade plus. And at some point we had our second kid. I got laid off at the same time. And
Whoa.
okay, what's the next step here? And I guess because I got laid off, I had some time to reflect on it and think about it really makes sense. Because otherwise I would jump into the next W-2 job. That's what my mindset was at the time.
Dude, let me pause you right there. I did not know that. You may have told someone on my team. I didn't know that. I've had two kids. And so there's a level of stress on the first one, but the level of stress on the second one to me was like 10x. If you went through anything like that in that moment, dude, what was that like?
So with the first one, it was already pretty strained, right? Like both my wife and I were working full time with the daycares and sort of the preschools. It's a really rigid timeline on when you drop them, when you pick them up. So that was a daily sort of stress between us. And then we would always think like if my daughter got sick and one of us had to pick her up, who would it be and how would we coordinate that? And that was very stressful to think about. Luckily in the beginning, my daughter was coming with me to my workplace and we had a daycare right there. So I was the go-to person. If anything happened, I would be able to pick her up and deal with it. But we were thinking now if we had two, and you say I was traveling and it was just like thinking about it long-term, it just felt like there was just no way we could sustain this. We would have to build in some form of flexibility where our kids didn't have to, number one, have the same work day as I did. Because my daughter was having like 12 plus hour work days between commute, going to work, at work and coming back. I mean, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day was her day as well. Wow. And I was like, this is just doesn't feel right. So as we were exploring this, I got laid off at about that same time. I was actually thinking about transitioning out of my job at the same time. So the layoff was actually a blessing in disguise because it really gave me this period of time where I was getting paid and I had time to think about, how do I work this out?
Yeah.
And they did an awesome job of providing this transition program where they taught all sorts of ways to look for another job or things you could explore as an alternative, right? So consulting, starting a business, all those things were presented as options like, hey, now that you don't have this job, what are you going to do next? These are some of the things and how do you explore them? What do you need to learn about them? How to start? Here are the resources we offer, etc.
Yeah.
In that process, I got approached by a friend who I worked with before who offered a consulting gig. And I was like, okay, I'm not looking for consulting because I didn't know what consulting was and how it worked. I was looking for a W-2 job, but I was looking for something really close to where we live. And that was really hard to find. So I was like, okay, I'll do this consulting thing because I loved working with those guys before. And it was a really awesome project, but it was another long commute. And I was like, okay, I can't come in every day, but I'll do whatever I can remotely. Every once in a while I can pop in and we can catch up and we'll see how this consulting thing works. And if it works well, then I'm happy to try it out. And I loved the consulting piece. I was making more than I did in my W-2 job, working half as much, right? Because I'm basically collecting for all the benefits and all the extra things that a business would need to collect to make the numbers work, except I didn't have that spend because benefits and stuff were coming through my wife's employer. So it was like a total win there, 100% flexibility. I was working remotely. And really something interesting happened with consulting is like, I realized it didn't matter what they asked me to do anymore because I wasn't trying to climb this corporate ladder. It was like an hourly rate. You want me to do work that's not super valuable, you pay me the same amount, it doesn't matter to me. Like that's what you want me to do for you, I'm happy to do it. There was none of that tension I felt when I was in a W-2 job where, hey, I want to do more valuable things because that's kind of what allows me to grow in my career, right? Like that, and that stress of, oh, I'm doing important work or maybe I'm not doing very important work and I should kind of fight for more important work. That disappeared. And I loved it because it was like, okay, you tell me what you want done, I'll do the best job I can. And it doesn't matter what you ask me to do because at the end of the day, it's how much time I spend and you pay me for it, I'm happy with it.
Sure.
And then I was able to calculate time as well, right? I was intending to work full time, but then it was like, okay, I can't work certain days or certain hours. There's some kid stuff comes up, kids are off school, whatever it is. I was able to be like, oh, I'm not going to work today. It's fine, right? It doesn't matter. It's like, I don't get paid if I don't work, and that's okay. That's a trade-off I'm willing to accept. And at about the same time, I took a real estate course that kind of opened my eyes to reps, right? Like real estate professional status and how the tax benefits work. And I was like, wow, this is a really awesome fit. I can do consulting and I can modulate how many hours I work, how much time I spend on real estate, and make all of that fit together, 100% flexible. This is it. This is a solution.
It's a huge unlock. For people that don't know, we've talked about this on the show before, but it's a very powerful tax strategy where you can basically get that status of real estate professional, and it allows you, all of your passive investments in real estate can be used to offset the losses, can be used to offset active gains. And of course, talk to your accountant before doing something like this, but it's a massive, could be a multi-six-figure net situation annually. So you can check it out. But this for you obviously seems like a huge unlock.
It was. Basically, if I did the math, even if I didn't work on the consulting side, just the tax benefits alone would be close to what I would be making net on a full-time job. So I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is clearly the best way for us financially, at least. Career-wise, I was a little bit not sure, like I wanted to step away from it, but in real estate was fun for me. I really enjoyed it. There was a lot of stuff within real estate that felt very much like engineering, like the due diligence and even project management and all. There's a lot of sort of things that I could translate from engineering into real estate. And it was fun because I like variety of projects. And I guess that's more where the passive side took me, right? So the active side, I was like looking for deals and making something work. And we did that for 2 or 3 years. And then I was like, okay, how do we get bigger? Like, we need to figure out a way to make this scale so that as we learn more and are feeling more confident, we can do bigger deals. And so that's where the transition between, okay, we're just doing this, my wife and I are building a portfolio together, to like, how do we partner with other people to grow the real estate business and do this better and have it be a win for everybody? Because I had a lot of people that were in the same situation as me, like they're either not finding the right deal or they don't have the bandwidth to take on a big deal. But I was like, these are people I would be very happy to partner with. And if we work together, this can work really well for everyone, right? And everybody has their area of strength where they love doing certain things. I don't like doing certain things. I love doing other things that they hate doing. And if we can find that fit, then boom, we'd have an awesome team, an awesome partnership that kind of is a win for everybody. And from the numbers standpoint, it seemed like the scale of efficiency you get with scale was definitely a big thing as well. Like the numbers on smaller properties in terms of time spent doing the work to execute on the deal versus, hey, I'm going to spend a bit more time. But I guess for me as an engineer, I was finding it very hard to spend very like proportionally to like if I'm doing a 100K deal versus a 10 million deal, I'd probably spend 100% more time, but this is a 100X. So I guess this sort of drive towards scale became important and trying to explore how do we make that work, right?
And then the capital is the ultimate unlock for this. So if someone's listening to this, they don't have a ton of time, they even have a W-2 or a really demanding job or a really demanding business, and you want to get into the capital raising game, or I'll put it this way, if you want to get into the private equity game, if you're able to go into the capital raising side of it, you can have a very high leverage and an insane dollar per hour rate by putting a little bit of effort towards raising money, especially if you have a blueprint. So I want to take you back. So last year, 2025, you raised $5 million. Just so I know, what did you raise in 2024? Did you get started in 2024 or was 2025 your first year?
Yeah, no, 24 is when I started.
Okay. And how much capital did you raise in 2024?
Was $1 million in 24. And that was also like, wow, I can't believe I did this because I kind of did it. It was very accidental how the capital raising even fell into my lap. It was like an opportunity that was presented. It's like, hey, there's a deal. You're raising capital for it. If you're part of this mastermind, if you want to try and give it a shot to see how it feels, it's a good growth opportunity because most people are uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think try and see how you feel about it. And then strategy around like, how do you overcome that like obstacle around asking people for money on a deal? And I did it as a growth exercise. Okay, I know I'm going to be super uncomfortable doing this. And that's why I got to do it, just because I want to try it out. It's a one-time thing. Whatever I learned from it is great. And then we move on. I didn't expect this to become something that I continue doing. And so I did it. And then the same year, like in 25, we finished that original raise, which was part of the mastermind. And then a couple of opportunities came up because there are other people in the mastermind that were raising on like they were doing this sort of as something that they wanted to do long term. So I got invited to raise on a couple of additional raises, and I was like, okay, like I did the second and third one, and the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, the more comfortable I got with it. And then I started also like realizing, wow, the numbers on this look really attractive, right? I mean, number one, I get to see a deal really closely so that if I'm interested in investing, I know the deal really well and I'm very comfortable investing. And if I can get there and bring other people that are interested in the same kind of thing, this is like a complete win across the board, right? Everybody involved
Totally.
being big time, right?
Yes, just let me pause you real quick because in this case, and I've been in this seat, right? Because that's the beginning of my career. I was looking at deals and I was probably spending, let's say, way too much time than made sense, to be honest. 'Cause I was just taking it super seriously. But if I'm going to spend, let's say, 100 hours on due diligence for a 100K investment, because when you're getting started, you're kind of wasting your time. You don't really know what to look for. I was like, I could spend an extra 10 hours and feel comfortable enough to send this to someone else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, so think about that. Let's say you are doing it similar to that, where you're like investing 100,000, but if you spend an extra 10 hours, you could raise 1 million and make 1 million, or excuse me, make 100,000 from raising 1 million. And you're relying on someone else to do the operations. That's how I got
Right.
into the business. So the extra 10 hours, what's that? $10,000 an hour? It was something like that. 10,000 times 10. Yeah, that's 100,000. And that's a pretty reasonable situation. I know it seems odd, but that's exactly what got me into the business. So when did you start working with us, by the way?
So I joined RaiseMaster after RaiseFest I think I came to RaiseFest 24.
Okay. And then you went from 1 million to 5 million at some point. What would be some of the stuff that you executed that unlocked that level of 5x type of going from 1 million to 5 million?
I think one of the big things I know on the first raise that I did, I was doing exactly what you advise against, right? Asking to get married on that first, like literally the first question I asked is, do you want to get married?
Yeah.
And that seemed like the only way to do it at the time. I didn't think about the psychology and the mechanics of it. And then obviously all the stuff that I learned at RaiseMasters about the nurturing sequence and like, how do you get people, number one, aware of the fact that you're doing this, get them confident that you know what you're doing, and then present it at a point when they're ready for to understand more and maybe consider investing with you.
Totally.
So I was rushing that sequence right from that. Literally, that was my first, hey, how's it going? I have a deal. You want to invest with me? That was my messaging on that first time that I raised. So it made me realize like how wrong that was. And also put me in the shoes of a person that's receiving that message and how that would feel, right? So I started really thinking about it from the standpoint of all the things you teach in Raise Masters and how they would feel as a recipient and do the same in return to make it comfortable and effective, right? I feel like there's certain things that you need to know about the person you're investing with before you come. So the know and trust piece, I feel like I always think about it every time I'm reaching out to somebody. I'm thinking about where does my know trust factor sit with this person? And it changes the way I interact with them, right? If I know them really well, then I can be super casual and say funny things or whatever. But if it's somebody that's borderline where they don't know me very well, they may like me, but the trust factor clearly is not there. And how do I build that trust? I approach that quite differently.
Totally. And it's funny because you can facilitate this, and we kind of have the battle tested strategies for this. You can turn someone into a very high buy-in person that previously was a stranger. They can go from total stranger, super skeptical, really hesitant, to like, holy crap, Hussein's the man. His credibility is way up here through the roof. And it just comes down to sprinkling a couple of one-to-many type of strategies, or just being more intentional around what dominoes would have to be knocked down before they're going to send the money. One of the strategies that we mentioned, I know you did this in your $10 million raise, where you guys, and there's 4 of you that raised $10 million in 18 minutes. And we're going to be talking about this on the show for a while, at least until this group does something even more incredible, because the previous, like a couple months ago, I think you guys set out to raise $3 million and raise 6.4. And that was like the talk of the town until 2 months later, you did 10 million in 18 minutes. Now we're like, okay, forget that. Now we're on to this, which will probably happen again. But one thing we're talking about offline is that we've got a bunch of different kind of tips and strategies for each bottleneck people run into. We've just been through enough reps to have a framework for each thing. And one of the things we've really harped on recently is these mini webinars, a very short version of a video that breaks down the deal so that the investor can feel comfortable enough to move forward without taking you through a 90-day due diligence process, which will just burn your efficiency. and slow down the monetization. This is something that you had a huge success with in the last raise. Can you talk about first any aversions you had to executing this strategy and any lessons you learned along the way of executing that blueprint?
Yeah, in general, I feel like I am very averse to putting myself out there, whether it's social media, whether it's even text feels a little bit uncomfortable for me. So video is even more like, because I feel like I know these are all limiting beliefs. I know they're all in my head. I know the recipient doesn't experience the same thing that I'm imagining they will experience, and they're very effective. But these are all things that I'm still working to overcome, right?
Yeah, you're an engineer.
Yeah, but in this last raise, I guess because of the speed at which the previous raises went, I was really concerned for my investors who would hesitate even a minute to like, oh, am I ready for this? And then we had decided as a group, because we all knew this was going to happen. We had all decided and we decided, okay, I think the best way for everybody to have a chance at getting their investors in is to give them enough information so that they are ready to just soft commit as soon as the thing opens up, because we knew it was going to go in minutes. So everybody had their own sort of incentive to make whatever communication they wanted. And mini webinars seemed like the most appropriate in terms of who our typical investors are. They are really time constrained. Getting them on a phone call is really all these things, right? That are very typical of the ICA. They're typically busy professionals, mostly physicians. Time is really difficult thing to find on their calendars and to kind of get in touch with them. So mini webinars seem like the most appropriate tool here. And we already had a slide deck for a webinar that was supposed to come a week after we opened. But we knew that by the time that webinar came around, like this thing would be done, right? Like even whether the webinar made sense to have or not would be a question.
Yep.
So everybody decided to pull out whatever slides made sense from that main deck and present a mini webinar and send it out to their investors. And so I was very intentional about trying to make it as detailed as I could so that they had all the information they needed on the deal, yet short enough that they're going for a 5-10 minute grocery run, they could play while they're doing it, and it would be just the right amount of time that they would get that done. And then obviously the invite to, hey, if there's anything more you want to talk about, just call me, text me, email me, whatever it is, and let me know. But once again, urging the urgency around this thing when it opens on Saturday, we had a specific time. Saturday, I think it was 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. This thing is going to go within minutes. So if you're in it, please be ready. And here's the link. Be ready to soft commit. And then otherwise, it's going to go fast.
And so here's what happened, just for context, because we did a full interview with our group at RaiseMasters. We interviewed this group, and they essentially sent out these mini webinars with an opportunity for them to get ready to soft commit in a couple of days, right? And I think it was actually even longer than that, right? There was like a lot of buildup before they could even soft commit, but they gave them all this momentum and excitement so that they all knew, hey, if you want to invest in this deal, you got to block your calendar because it's going to get fully subscribed. And so what ended up happening is that they sent it out, and in 18 minutes, they raised $10 million and basically had to turn it off because that's how much allocation they had for the deal. Now, some people have asked, isn't that just committed? How much did they actually fund? And I've talked to some people about this, and I'm like, usually we see about 70% of the capital committed funded. So yeah, they probably raised 7 million in 10 minutes. But in the interview with you guys, I asked you and you said, oh no, we got 10 committed, but they actually funded 13. And I said, how'd that happen? They said they went back to the operator, asked for more, and they got them more, and they ended up funding 13. They funded 130% of what they had committed. I know that seems crazy, but if you do some of this stuff, guys, it's such high leverage activity to get this stuff right in terms of marketing, messaging, lead up sequences, drip campaigns, credibility. Even if it takes you out of your comfort zone a little bit, it is totally worth it. Listen, I know we kind of went back and forth here, and I want to make sure we kind of keep these snappy because I do want people to listen to them while they're on a ride. But there's probably some people that are listening to this they're a little bit in their own way. Think about yourself like 3 years ago. You wanted to do deals. You didn't really want to create webinars or content or anything like that. And did you feel like this isn't just, if you were listening, if you were someone in that position right now, what would you say to them in terms of like who you are, your background, your personality versus like hearing, oh, I don't ever want to be on a webinar? Why is it worth it to you, Hussein, to do that? Because I know that's not like how you think of yourself.
Yeah, and this is all, if I think about it, I've been raising for just has it even been 2 years? I guess it's been a little over 2 years now. So this is all still pretty foreign to me, but I feel like I'm so deep into it now. I see myself as a capital raiser.
Yes.
And I think part of it was I felt like I needed to be somebody else, or I had to curate this person that was the right capital raiser. But I think everybody has, ultimately it's about the know trust, and the person that you're trying to have people know and trust is the real you. And I think that's the part that once I felt, okay, I just need to be myself. I need to be authentic. I need to be genuine. I need to work hard to make sure that I'm providing the value that I'm claiming that I'm providing and feel comfortable with that. Then it's just about being you. And then whatever, I feel like everybody has their own tools, but clearly some tools are more effective than others. And the one to many obviously has a lot of advantage in terms of just letting people know that you do this stuff. Because I think one of my limitations is I know a lot more people that potentially may invest with me, but I don't think they even know that I'm doing this, right? They have no inkling that I'm in this space, what kind of deal. They have no level of detail around. I think they don't even know that I'm in this investment space or real estate in general.
Yeah.
At the level that we're operating, where we're doing the due diligence we're doing and the kind of the quality of the deals we're finding are pretty awesome. In my opinion, with all the investing I've done, I think we're finding really awesome deals.
Yeah.
They have no clue about this, right? And I think if I just sprung it up on people, it would fall flat. But I think if you give people time to learn about what you're doing and get comfortable with it and get intrigued by it, and the only way to do it is through these sequences, right? Like either emails or texts or social media, whatever it is, some way of letting people know that you're doing it.
Totally. And I guess your point is that everyone knows you need to get people to know and trust you. And so I guess the question that I'm going to ask anybody listening that's hesitant is, so what's your plan to do that at scale? Is your plan to just fill up your calendar with a bunch of introductions with people that don't trust you? Because that's just going to waste your time. If you have the time for that, God, great. But I just don't get the impression that's why people, if you're successful, you don't have the time for that. So the solution we found is like a one-to-many strategy where if you're booking calls with them, they already know and trust you. They just want to confirm that you're a real person and that you are who they think you are. But to get to that point, they have to have something to bite into before even booking a call. So listen, man, this has been super powerful. For people that are interested in learning more about you, your journey, how can people learn more about your company?
Email me at Hussein@moonrigsolutions.com. That's the easiest way to reach me. I don't have a website and all that stuff yet, but if you reach out there, and happy to connect.
See, don't even need a website. Look, there's so much low-hanging fruit there, right? And it doesn't mean that it has to be a priority right now. I'm not sure that it is. You're working with our group, but like, you can raise millions of dollars without a website. You just need to access some of these one-to-many strategies. It can just be a huge lift in your business. You don't have to be a tech genius. You just got to be able to record a video, be yourself, and send it out. So this has been super helpful. Hussein, thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Hunter. Thanks for having me.